in addition to the business leaders whose companies I will mention in just a moment. We have some great people, great senators. Marcia, where are you? Where are you, Martha? Marcia, thank you very much. Marcia Blackburn, Bill Cassidy. Bill, thank you, Bill. Ashley Moody. Ashley, thank you. And John Husted. John, thank you very much. And Representatives Byron Donalds, Buddy Carter, Rob Whitman, Mark Alford, Mike Rogers, Richard Hudson, and Abe Hamadeh. Thank you all very much. We have Mike Kehoe, governors, Jim Pillen, Kevin Stitt, Mike Dunleavy, along with numerous other members of my cabinet, and I want to thank you all for being here. How come my cabinet has such good locations? You should have given them up to the business leaders. We want their money, you know. They have very good locations. I'm not surprised. 100 days ago this week, we inherited the wreckage of 4 years of economic disaster under the previous administration. It was an economic disaster. It was a disaster at the border like nobody had ever seen before. And you probably see we've closed up the border 99.999%, meaning 3 people got in. 3. As opposed to hundreds of thousands of people coming in on a monthly basis, millions of people, actually. There are periods where we had millions and millions of people pouring in on a monthly basis. We had 3 people. They buried companies in crippling regulations, waged war on American energy, pushed massive tax hikes, and gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. In Biden's final year, the United States had the worst trade deficit ever recorded, and we lost 106,000 manufacturing jobs. Other than that, he's done a fantastic job. But now all that is changing, and all that's changing very fast, because we finally have the president who wants to put our country first. You have a president who believes in America first. In the first quarter GDP numbers just out today, core GDP, now we're removing distortions from imports, inventories, and government spending, was up plus 3%. But this is Biden's economy, because we took over on January 20th. And I think you have to get us a little bit of time to get moving. But this is the Biden economy. But we still had and we've had a lot of things happen since November 5th that helped this economy, because it was indicating a strong private sector growth. And it only started after November 5th. The private sector started really heating up after the election. Even though I wasn't there, people knew what we were going to be doing, and the private sector growth was actually very good. Very importantly, gross domestic investment was up an incredible 22%, which they had never seen before. Every new investment, every new factory, and every new job created is a sign of strength in American economy and a declaration of confidence in America's future. We really do. We've never seen anything like this. Even Samsung, whose name isn't mentioned here, but I heard that they announced this morning that they're going to be building a very big plant, because they want to be able to beat the tariffs. It's the only way to beat them. The entire Trump economic agenda is about making it easier to do business in America, to create jobs in America, to hire American workers, and to build your factories here in America, not in China or any other country. And we're dealing with many, many countries right now, I will say. And I think I can say for Scott and for Howard and for some of the people that are dealing, there are too many to handle. I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to hire some of the people running these companies. Boy, would you do a good job. I could have Jensen negotiate. He'd blow my people away, wouldn't you? I think even Howard would say that. Howard would say, we'll take them. He'd blow them away with big deals. One deal would be the end. That would be it. But we've terminated the Green New scam. It was a scam. And halted tens of billions of dollars of money, wasteful deficit spending. It was like throwing money right out the window. And in the coming weeks, we'll pass the largest tax cuts in American history. And I think even more so, we'll be doing things for business like you've never seen before. You saw it in a little smaller version at the beginning of our last term. You know, we had the most successful 4 years that any president has ever had. The stock market was up 88%. The other markets were up almost 100%. And that's despite COVID and all the crazy things happening. But we had a tremendous 4 years. We've given credit for that, actually. But our big, beautiful bill, as I call it, our big, beautiful bill, we may name it that, actually, will include 100% expensing retroactive to January 20th. So that's all the way back to just about the beginning of the year. So expensing 1 year, you take a deduction 1 year, so you can build your factories right now, essentially almost tax-free, if you think about it. Nobody's ever been given that, and we're going to make that expensing for a 4-year period at a full 100%. So last time we made it 1 year, and you had deductions. You'd go from 100% to 80 to 60 to 40 to 20 to Zippo. And now what we're going to do is we're going to keep it at that level, and we're going to have it for 4 years. So I believe that was one of the reasons that we had such unbelievable growth. Also, we allowed you to bring money back from outside of the country. It was impossible. You had to have 15 different law firms representing you. It was so complicated. And worse was that the tax rate was 65%. I lowered the rate substantially, but still a lot. You know, we shouldn't take your money just to hold you hostage, right? So we lowered it to a reasonable amount. And we took in trillions of dollars, came back. Apple brought in a tremendous amount of money. A lot of the companies here brought in a lot of money. And the businesses represented today clearly understand that if you build your factory in the United States, your tariff rate is 0. And you have other advantages, too. And not the least of which is what I just said, having to do with the bill. Now, we have to get that bill approved. So call your local representative, please, and make sure that we get it approved, because I don't want to talk too early, but we're doing well with the Republican Congress. We have the Senate is doing great, and the House is doing great. John Thune has been spectacular. Mike Johnson has been, Speaker, has been spectacular. Marcia, you're in there working very hard and doing well. What do you think? Are we going to get it passed? We have to. Marcia, we don't get it passed, I'm blaming you. We have to. We have to get it passed. We will. I think we will. But I don't think we'll have any Democrat votes. If we don't get it passed, what would happen is your taxes go up 68%. Think of that. And we may not get one vote because they just vote against. It's Trump derangement syndrome, or maybe it's just they hate Republicans, or they hate what we're doing because they've lost their confidence. They've totally lost their confidence. They don't know what the hell is going on. And we are going to get it done. It's probably going to be fully Republican. Fortunately, we have the House, we have the Senate. And we may or may not have a couple of grandstanders. I don't know. But if we do, it would be good if you could work on anybody. I mean, if I were a Democrat, I'd be voting for it 100%. Because I think it's very dangerous politically not to vote for it. Think of it, your taxes go up almost 68%. So, but it looks like we're in good shape, I think, and hopefully we'll get it approved. It'll be the biggest bill ever approved in the history of our country, and it'll be the biggest tax cut ever approved in the history of our country. And in addition to that, regulations, which I'm doing in and outside of the bill, will be as big or bigger than we did last time. We have the record for regulation cuts in the 4 years. We cut 4 times higher than any other president in a 4-year period. And we're talking about 8 years and 2-term presidents. We were 4 times higher than any other president in terms of regulation cuts. And I went to a friend of mine who happens to be in the room, one of the biggest business leaders. I won't mention him because I don't know, maybe he'll like it, maybe he won't. I said to him, so have you had your choice between the big tax cut last time and the big regulation cuts, which were the biggest, again, the biggest we've ever done? I would have said taxes, but he would have said regulation. I said, which was more important to you? And he said, if I could only have one, yeah, if you could only have one, he said, most important would have been regulation. The regulation was more important than the tax cut. And I mean, we cut your taxes from almost 40% down to 21%. Now we're bringing your taxes down from 21% to 15% if you build your product, make your product in the USA. So if you make it in the USA, those chips, those beautiful chips, will make those suckers in the USA, and you're going to be all the way down to 15%. And I think there's never been anything like it. So now we're at the lowest scale for a large country, by far the lowest scale. Our pro-jobs, pro-American economic policies are a major reason that businesses around the world have announced $5 trillion of investment since November 5th, and now we think it's up to plus $8 trillion, and they're really coming in. They're really coming in fast. Some of them don't bother calling us. Some of them don't even want meetings. They just start their plants and start their factories. I want to express my tremendous appreciation to the business leaders here. You are really an amazing group. This is a who's who. I don't want to say, there's an expression if something ever went off, the entire industry would be wiped out, but I won't say that. I want to think very positively, and that could never happen here, could it? But I want to congratulate you all on your incredible success and accomplishments. You've been amazing. You're the biggest and the best. So I'd like to introduce some of you, President and CEO of Hyundai, Jose Munoz. Jose, thank you very much. Fantastic. Jose is investing $21 billion, including $5.8 billion for a new steel plant in Louisiana, which is a beauty. I saw a picture of it, which is going to create at least 1,500 jobs, just the plant alone. Thank you very much, Jose. Beautiful. Chairman and CEO of global shipping giant CMA CGM, Rodolphe Sade. Thank you, Rodolphe. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Investing $20 billion in creating 10,000 new jobs at least. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. You'd be very happy.
You have been listening to President Trump there, delivering remarks on investment from the White House in front of a variety of business leaders who you saw him introduce. But at the top, interesting there, given that this is a day where we saw the markets drop, where we saw those GDP numbers earlier today showing that the economy actually shrank by just about 0.5%, just under in the first quarter of the year, which President Trump, again late today, as you just heard, is blaming on his predecessor, President Biden, former President Biden. You heard President Trump also asking for more time and patience since he says tariffs just kicked in. That is not technically the case since the ones on at least Canada and Mexico started a bit earlier. We're going to continue to listen in to hear what President Trump has to say, but we want to get to our team who's covering this across every angle and every beat. There's Kelly O'Donnell, who's outside the White House for us, Brian Chung breaking down the economic angle, Steve Patterson, too, in the Port of Los Angeles. I want to start, Kelly O'Donnell, if we have you here, because President Trump, again, is reiterating what we heard at his cabinet meeting this morning, both pointing the finger at his predecessor for these economic numbers, but also preemptively blaming former President Biden as well if the GDP continues to shrink. What are you hearing behind the scenes at the White House about this?
Well, they believe that putting blame on President Biden, the former president, not in office anymore, no longer responsible for any of these decisions, can be effective, especially the president's base who has had a very steady diet of anti-Biden rhetoric during the campaign season, very much like the campaign. For the current president, who has been noting, celebrating, marking his 100 days, to call this the Biden economy is really quite striking, especially for President Trump, who likes to brand everything sort of in his own image and wants to take credit for the policies that he's enacting. When it comes to immigration, he's not saying this is the Biden border. He's very clearly claiming credit for the changes at the border. Well, so he's picking and choosing a bit. So on economic matters, he is saying the gross domestic product numbers, the first time in 3 years that a first quarter is in negative growth, that is notable. Certainly during the Biden presidency, there was a spike of inflation. It went down toward the end of his time. There was definitely a feeling among many Americans that it was difficult to pay for everyday items that had gone up in price, even though many of the fundamentals of the economy, when you looked at growth, when you looked at jobs, the low unemployment rate, a lot of those fundamentals were quite strong. So what is really notable now is that President Trump is not only blaming what came in, but forecasting that the next key economic indices and reports that we will be getting might be President Biden's fault, too. Among those would be, for example, the jobs numbers coming up in April. But many job losses have been caused by the DOGE cuts, at least among the federal workforce. So President Trump is trying to position his policies in the best way that he can. Some of that is rooted in facts, and some of it is simply the politics and the style he has of liking to certainly throw some blame at Joe Biden.
Kelly O'Donnell, thank you very much. Brian Chung, let me go to you now here, because to Kelly's point with this idea of taking credit or not taking credit for the stock market, we look at the Truth Social post, for example, that the president issued just last year that literally took credit for the stock market under former President Biden here, right? So we know it feels like the theme of today, one of them, is the rhetoric meeting the reality when it comes to what we're hearing from the economy out of this White House here. Talk us through the dynamics as it relates to what is ahead here, because 1 quarter of shrinking GDP, okay, 2 quarters of shrinking GDP. In other words, if this happens again 3 months from now and we see these kinds of numbers, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a huge recession indicator, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, some people would say that is the unofficial definition of a recession, is 2 back-to-back quarters of negative GDP. And I want to point out here, we've been tossing this kind of, letter salad around. GDP is just a way of measuring economic activity. And what we saw was, again, that negative 0.3%. That's how much the economy grew over the course of these first 3 months of 2025. A negative number means that the economy contracted over that period of time, which raises the question, of course, of how is GDP accounted for. Without getting into the nitty-gritty of all of it, accounts for things like consumption. That's you and me spending at our local stores, investments. That's companies building a factory, like you heard Hyundai and also Samsung from the president just now. And then there's also government spending. But this last bit is the most important within the context of the number we got today. It's exports minus imports, what they call net exports. If you import more from other countries than you export to other countries, well, then that would be a drag on the economy. And that is what happened. Why did we import so much in the first 3 quarters of this year? Well, it was simply because a lot of businesses were saying, you know what? I want to get ahead of these tariffs, and perhaps even before inauguration, they were pulling forward a lot of these orders saying, you know what, I want to get these teddy bears, or I want to get these toys or electronics here in the United States before those tariffs begin. That was the drag on GDP. So the president did say just now, he said, quote, and I'm be paraphrasing here, but he said it's actually up 3% GDP if you strip out inventory and spending. But Hallie, that would be like saying 20 minus 25 equals 20 if you ignore the minus 25. You can't ignore the GDP accounting here. The numbers are the numbers.
The other piece of this, and I don't want to get super nerd style here, God bless, but this idea of the payroll indicators being about half of what experts had expected them to be. Is that a sign that companies are slowing down hiring and perhaps bracing for what could come with this trade war and with this tariff policy from the president? Yeah, well, the numbers you're referring to come from ADP. These are private payrolls that, someone outside of the government has measured. It really showed 62,000 jobs added in the month of April. That was well below the expectation of 120,000 jobs. A lot of people use this as a tea leaf to read into the official government jobs report, which we'll get on Friday. They don't usually line up. So just because this is disappointing doesn't mean the Friday numbers are going to be disappointing. But you do worry, are companies starting to maybe lay people off in advance of a slowdown in economic activity? That's something we'll have to watch for when we get those numbers on Friday. Brian Chung, thanks for hanging with us. We'll talk to you again, I know, as we get more throughout the night and throughout the week. Speaking of things that are slowing down, let me go to Steve Patterson now outside the port of L.A., one of the nation's busiest ports, especially for stuff coming in from China, from the rest of Asia. And when we talk about this idea of a slowdown, port officials there, Steve, where you are, let me put up some of the numbers here, show traffic down about 1/3, both this week and for what is expected next week. So translate that into what I feel when I go to the store either now or later. What does that mean?
Yeah, so these are the busiest ports for anything coming from China, and you will feel it, according to the estimates and the people I've been speaking to, including the director of the Port of Los Angeles, saying in about 4 to 5 weeks, you will start to feel some of those ramifications. It is because those numbers that you just put on stage are massive on screen. We're talking about thousands and thousands of shipments that are not coming to the United States because these retailers simply can't afford a 145% tariff. They can't can't do it. So they're not going to ship goods from China anymore. It's simply not going to happen. We're starting to see a lot of these shipments either paused or halted altogether, and that's starting to translate in the amount of cargo that's coming over. We're expecting about 35% in the decrease in the amount of cargo coming next month, year over year, next week, I should say, year over year. Next month, the month of May, about 25% in the reduction of the ships that are going to be coming all together. And so I spoke to the CEO of the Port of Los Angeles just about what this may mean for store shelves. Like you mentioned, here's what he told me about the worst case scenario. Listen to this.
The worst case scenario is less choice on store shelves and online buying, prices spike, and families are really becoming tighter with their budgets. Consumer spending drops, and we've got a very different look at this economy.
And Hallie, not to make a bad pun, but this is a really slow-moving ship. Even if they were to come to a deal today, you wouldn't get a turnaround for at least another month, maybe 2 to 3 months down the line. So long-term damage already being done. Hallie? So
get super concrete, right? Because I hear you, I hear him when he talks about, you know, fewer options on store shelves. Does this mean that I won't be able to find the sneakers that I like? Does it mean the part to fix my iPhone won't be there? The stuff that I ordered from Shein isn't going to get? Like, what does it actually mean in a super concrete way?
So if you were to order like something specific in a fall fashion, and this was told to me from Gene Soroka, the guy who was just on camera, it would be like if you were trying to get a specific purple in something that was coming out, you wouldn't find it in the proper shade. You may have to go several shades down the line of your list of something you were trying to get. That will change, though. That's just where we start. Obviously, that then, you know, bleeds into some of the staple items that were sort of upfronted, because a lot of these major retailers knew this was coming. They upfronted a lot of those goods. A lot of things like furniture, big-ticket electronic items, that stuff is going to be okay for a while until it's not, until there is some sort of agreement and people simply don't have the wherewithal to ship it. And then eventually it's going to hit consumers because, you know, a lot of the retailers are going to be able to eat those costs because they want to stay in line with their consumers. But a lot of them are simply not, and they're going to have to raise prices. Consumer spending goes down. The economy takes a big hit. Hallie?
Steve Patterson, live for us there at the port. Steve, it's all super interesting. I know you're coming back with us next hour, too, so thank you very much for being there. I appreciate it. We've got some other headlines to watch tonight as we keep an eye on what's going down at the White House, including right now extreme weather battering folks in Oklahoma, where they are now evacuating people because of flash flooding concerns. Then there's this. Look at this possible tornado touching down nearby in North Texas. Flipped that semi-truck, winds up to 100 miles an hour. Some 300,000 people are in the dark as we speak in Pennsylvania, where one power company says it could take up to a week to get the lights back on. The intense wind, the heavy rain, turning deadly when one man was electrocuted near a utility pole during the storm. Another man was killed after a tree fell over. You're looking at just some of the damage in that Pittsburgh area. George Solis has more from Oklahoma.
Here in Oklahoma City, the rain has been relentless, starting overnight, carrying into this morning. It has already created some headaches as far as some localized flooding. Now, the risk for flash flooding is diminishing, but again, with more rain on the way, officials saying we're not totally out of the woods yet. Now, unfortunately, this storm system has also proven deadly in the Northeast. Officials in Pennsylvania reporting 2 deaths, one of them potentially via downed power lines, which is why officials are always urging folks to steer clear of any downed wires or power lines that may fall as a result of these storms. We're going to keep a close eye on central Missouri and northern Texas, where the potential for more flooding, more destructive winds, and even tornadoes may exist over the next 24 hours. Here in this region, we did see our fair share of destructive winds as well, including some hail that was the size of tennis balls. In Missouri, there was actually a storm system that prompted the evacuation of an elementary school. 600 kids had to seek shelter. Now, the threat for tornadoes in this region seems to be diminishing, but officials just urging folks to hunker down, weather this storm until it clears this region. Back to you.
Our thanks to George Solis for that. Also tonight, the White House saying late today, no judge will stop them from, in their words, restoring the rule of law on immigration. That's after a federal judge ruled a Columbia student at the center of kind of a lesser-known deportation fight can be free. You see him there in yet another battle between the White House and the courts. The man you're looking at, Moshe Madawi, now out of ICE detention on bail, at least for now. And he has a very clear message for this White House. Watch.
And I am saying it clear and loud.
Yes.
to President Trump and his cabinet. Yes. I am not afraid of you.
So remember here, Madawi was a key organizer of pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University. The White House says that is why he should be deported, writing in court documents reviewed by NBC News that he acknowledged to being involved in anti-Semitic acts of violence. It's not just Madawi. Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil is in ICE custody right now. Foreign students at Cornell, Tufts, the University of Alabama, you see them here, have all been arrested too. I want to bring in Stephanie Gosk on this one. And Steph, you know, we talk about this sort of executive branch, judicial branch, head to head. You are seeing it in this case with the judge sort of being very clear with the Trump administration in their own message here.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. I mean, the judge in this case almost very clearly siding with Madawi and his legal team in this decision, although this is just a release on bail. The actual decision on whether he's been legally detained will happen further down the road. But the judge making clear that he has real First Amendment concerns, writing in his decision, our nation has seen times like this before. The wheel of history has come around again. But as before, these times of excess will pass. And that is why, because of that language, that is why I think you are getting such a strong statement from the administration saying that not this judge or any other judge is going to get in their way, Hallie.
So we talked about the administration, of course, pushing back, saying, hey, they're not going to let a judge stop them in this instance. We've heard that even just today from other members of the cabinet that, you know, they are going to exert some executive branch muscle against the judiciary. But what does that mean for the other students we talked about, not just from Columbia, but from other universities as well, who have been stopped, arrested, that are going through the legal process of their own?
Well, there's a really important distinction about this particular case here today, because this played out in Vermont. Madawi was actually never put on a plane and sent to Louisiana, where a number of these other students are being held. So the immigration portion is happening in Louisiana. Now, you had a federal court judge in Vermont order that Rumeza Ozturk, that's the graduate student from Tufts, that she be brought back to Vermont. And that process is working it out. The government is appealing that order, you know, whether or not she goes back to Vermont. So it really is this tug between these students and an issue of due process that's being fought out. They are all contesting their detention and challenging its legality, while at the same time, the government is pursuing deportation in a separate immigration proceeding, Hallie.
So when does this come to a head, Steph? Like, in other words, is there some big sort of court date that we're watching for? Is it going to happen by, like, what's the next thing we're circling on our calendar?
Well, there are different processes, but I would draw your attention to Rumeza Ozturk in particular. So a judge ordered her to be returned, actually tomorrow. A federal judge in Vermont ordered her returned tomorrow, but then it was appealed by the government, and there was a stay put in place until May 6th. And it remains to be seen what the appeals ruling will be, and then does it get kicked up to the Supreme Court?
That's right.
So a lot of these cases just keep moving up the courts, and so it would be something to watch if the federal government is ordered to bring her back to Vermont. Do they comply with that order? Does it go forward? But does it go all the way to the Supreme Court? Right.
Well, that's the thing. As other cases, as other controversial moves that the Trump administration has made are working their way up as well. Stephanie Gosk, thank you. Appreciate you being on top of this one. Also tonight, the Massachusetts woman accused of killing her Boston police officer boyfriend speaking outside of court just before we came on the air, saying a key witness that testified in her trial today was perjuring herself. Watch this.
It's just more of the same inconsistencies. Every statement's different. Under oath, not under oath. The cops are all wrong. This is very similar to what we saw a year ago.
So the witness testimony got really heated today, with Karen Reed's lawyer honing in on the exact wording of a critical question the defendant asked, Reed asked, the morning that she realized her boyfriend hadn't come home. Remember, Reed, you see her in court there earlier before she spoke outside, says she is being framed for the death of her boyfriend, Officer John O'Keefe, back in January of 2022. But prosecutors say it was Reed who killed him, that she drunkenly backed into him with her SUV and left him to die in the snow. Aaron McLaughlin is joining us now. This is a high-profile, closely watched trial here, and it was sort of notable to see the defense really honing in on literally a single word to try to help their case here. Explain that.
Yeah, it's a critical word, Hallie. This was a testimony today about Jennifer McCabe. She is critical to both the prosecution and the defense. Why? Because she was there at all points through the night that John O'Keefe died. She was at the bar. She was at the after party. And then critically, she was there when they found John O'Keefe's body there in the snowstorm, lying on the front lawn of her sister's house. And during the testimony today, she testified that Karen Reed, when John O'Keefe's body was found, said 3 times, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him." But when pressed by the defense in cross-examination, a very tense cross-examination at times, they challenged her recollection, specifically pointing to her testimony to the grand jury in April of 2022. The defense attorney saying she made no mention of that phrase. Instead, she said something else. Take a listen.
You were there. They're your words. I'm not asking you to rehearse something. You were there. Did you tell the grand jurors that my client said I hit him?
I have testified a number of times, but I was there the morning of January 29th when your client said I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Did you tell that to the grand jurors?
I'm not sure.
In later testimony, she admitted that she said, "Could I have hit him? Did I hit him?" Which, of course, is a huge distinction and critical to the defense's case. Hallie.
There's also this focus on a Google search related to hypothermia that came up as well, right? It's sort of now infamous, this, how long does it take to die in the cold? What did she say about that?
Yeah, the prosecution had the opportunity today to question her about that specifically. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Had you ever attempted to search about hypothermia any time before that moment, that morning?
No.
Or that day?
No.
That week?
No.
Was this the first time that morning after the defendant asked you to search that you searched that phrase?
Yes, it was.
Now, the defense says that she searched that phrase at 2:20 in the morning, hours before John O'Keefe's body was found in the snow. Again, a huge critical distinction there in the case. The defense did not have the opportunity to cross-examine her on that point. I suspect that that is exactly what they're going to do when court resumes on Friday.
Yeah, I'd take that bet. Erin McLaughlin, thank you for being on top of that. We'll expect more updates from you as we get them. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks we should know about tonight. Number 1, Ukraine says it is ready to sign a minerals deal with the U.S. in the next 24 hours, a deal that would give America access to some valuable rare minerals inside Ukraine that help make things like aircraft wings and batteries. Ukraine sees the deal as key to future U.S. military help. Number 2, federal prosecutors are denying claims they eavesdropped on jailhouse phone calls between Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing the United Healthcare CEO, and his lawyers. Prosecutors say the jail where Mangione is being held regularly records and monitors lines. Remember, Mangione has pleaded not guilty to charges in connection with Brian Thompson's death. His trial is expected to start next year. Number 3, Pakistan says it has credible intelligence that India will launch military strikes sometime in the next 36 hours. Remember, India is pointing the finger at Pakistan for that deadly shooting last week in the Kashmir region. 26 people were killed. Pakistan denies the allegations and says any military moves by India will be responded to, in their words, assuredly and decisively. Number 4, the Microsoft CEO says as much as 30% of the company's code is now being written by AI. And that number's probably going to go up. As for Meta, CEO Mark Zuckerberg says about half the company's code will be AI generated within the next year. Number 5, listen, folks, 1 week till the Real ID deadline goes into effect. So check your license, check your ID. If you have a star in most states, that means you're good, like you're good to go. TSA says if you don't have Real ID yet, you can still use your passport or your green card or your military ID when you go to the airport, but you may have to deal with some extra screening. So just before we came on the air, prosecutors in upstate New York announced 11 high schoolers have now turned themselves in over an alleged involvement in what prosecutors call hazing on steroids. Here's the deal. Officials say last Thursday, those students staged a kidnapping of at least 5 younger lacrosse team members. One that involved driving one student into the woods with a pillowcase over his head, tied up in the trunk of a car. This was the first time we even heard details publicly about it. Officials really only addressing it because of so many rumors in this community about what happened. And here's the thing. When you think about hazing, you may think about it at the college level, right? With nearly 1,000 incidents of hazing reported on college campuses over the last 7 years. But researchers say this is also a big problem in high schools and in middle schools. One review says up to 17% of middle school athletes get hazed. The number is closer to 48% for high schoolers. I want to bring in Marquise Francis, who's joining us now. This all started with what was, allegedly, apparently, kind of a ride to a lacrosse game that then turned into an alleged, basically armed kidnapping here. What happened, and what are we learning late today with these students now turning themselves in?
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. I mean, the details of this story are really just heartbreaking. According to officials, those 5 underclassmen were under the impression they were going to be bonding with the older members of the team. They thought they were going to a lacrosse game and then out to dinner after. But as you noted, one of those underclassmen was taken to a remote part of Onondaga, and then when they got out of the car, they were surrounded by people dressed in black, and at least 2 of them were armed with a gun and a knife. And then he was bound, a pillowcase put over his head, and then thrown into the trunk. The local DA, as you mentioned in the presser yesterday, gave his view of what he thought this whole incident was about. And spoiler alert, it wasn't pleasant. Take a listen.
I cannot really adequately express to this community the level of stupidity and lack of judgment involved in this case. This goes way, way beyond, hazing.
I also want to add that the varsity's team, the rest of the varsity's team has been canceled this year, even though the local superintendent did note that it wasn't everyone. This was about attacking the culture. And of course, the school and superintendent said they are cooperating with authorities. Hallie?
When we talk about hazing, when you say underclassmen in high school, meaning like 9th or 10th graders we're talking about here, right, who were hazed, which is, these are 14-year-olds, maybe 15-year-olds when you're at that age level here. Federally, we know that lawmakers have worked to try to do something or crack down to some degree on college campus hazing. Do we know what's in the works for other age groups, too?
Yeah, we know federally, last December, President Biden signed into law the Stop Campus Hazing Act. And this was years in the making following the death of Penn State student Tim Piazza in 2017. And Piazza's parents were big advocates for this law. And as you see in the full screen on the screen, this Stop Campus Hazing Act requires colleges and universities to disclose hazing incidents reported to campus authorities, defines hazing as any intentional, knowing, or reckless act committed against a student that causes risk or harm. And colleges and universities also require to produce reports on student organizations that violated college hazing rules. So this law puts better parameters around what is hazing and holds colleges and universities accountable and puts it for the public. Hallie?
Marquise Francis, thank you very much for that. When we come back here on the show, the new study out in just the last 30 minutes showing another type of benefit from those semaglutide drugs. We'll tell you what in just a second. Plus, what officials think started a huge house fire. Look at that. Yikes, in Oklahoma. That's next. So here's a question some folks are asking tonight. Is there anything that those weight loss drugs can't do? Because a new study out in just the last 30 minutes shows that semaglutide drugs could actually also help fight liver disease. You've heard a lot about these, right? Ozempic, Wegovy. You probably know somebody who's taking one of them. They're proven to help people lose weight and target some health issues like diabetes. But now, scientists in the New England Journal of Medicine have published a new study saying more than 60% of patients who were taking the drug in the study saw liver issues either reversed or reduced. That's a big deal for the 4.5 million Americans living with liver disease right now. Berkeley Loveless, our medical reporter, is joining us now. Again, there's a lot that these drugs can do, and apparently helping to fight against liver disease is one of them.
Yeah, so they're really moving beyond weight loss and diabetes. So this study in particular was really interesting. It looked at fatty liver disease, a serious form called MASH. And so basically people who got Wegovy or semaglutide, about a third or 2/3 of them saw a reduction in MASH, and then they also saw a reduction in scarring that's also known for this disease. And so it's a really big deal because if left untreated, this disease can cause liver cancer. It could also require a liver transplant as well. The only effective treatment option right now is surgery. There is one other drug, but it's not as effective as the trial results for this showed. So this is a pretty big deal. And like right now we're seeing a lot of promise for these drugs. There's a lot of hope. For example, it's being looked at for alcohol addiction, for heart disease risk, for Alzheimer's. And so the thought right now is that these drugs help with your overall health. And so, of course, they're going to translate to these other diseases as well.
The alcohol addiction one is interesting, too, because obviously that could intersect with the liver, stuff, too, right?
Yeah, and so they haven't looked at that yet. This is a separate form. There's another type of liver disease that has to do, it's caused by drinking. And so this looked at the non-alcoholic version of that as well. But they're also, I believe, looking at the alcoholic version as well.
People might hear this and go, oh, my gosh, okay, great. Like, maybe I'll try this drug if my doctor recommends it or whatever. It is still incredibly expensive, right? And there's these questions about these issues of access, especially with the FDA basically ending the sort of compounding or sort of creating pharmacists creating their own version of these drugs.
Yeah, and so studies like this actually help. And so when we see studies like this, insurance companies are more likely to cover it. So they're not likely to cover the drugs when they're for weight loss alone. But we've seen when they get approved for heart disease risk or sleep apnea, insurance companies are more willing to cover it. And so Novo Nordisk said that they plan to file for approval. I believe they've already have, actually, and that we could hear by the end of the year. And so if they get approved, then insurance companies could then move. And a lot of people with obesity have this liver disease, so it could be helpful.
It's super interesting. Berkeley Loveless, I know that's hot off the presses, so thank you for getting here and bringing that to us. Thank you.
Thanks.
NBC News covers hundreds of other stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Southern Bureau, police in Texas say 3 workers have been killed. 2 others are hurt after scaffolding collapsed at a construction site there. The sheriff's department is investigating. The construction company says work at the site has been stopped and that it is cooperating with officials. Also out of our Southern Bureau, look at this, a huge fire just destroying that home in Oklahoma City this morning. Fortunately, everybody inside, all 3 people, are expected to be okay. Officials are still looking into it, but they think a lightning strike may have actually triggered this whole thing. And out of our Western Bureau, lawmakers in Hawaii want to boost a tax on travelers staying in hotels or vacation rentals, a tax that'll go towards helping to deal with climate change. This is a first-of-its-kind bill being voted on today. It would add a 0.75% tax, basically, to the daily room rate starting January 1st. Officials say the extra money would go towards things like replenishing sand on eroding beaches or helping people install hurricane clips on roofs. Also tonight, could the college coaching career of one of the most famous NFL football coaches in history get derailed before it even begins? That is the kind of pressure that 8-time Super Bowl winner Bill Belichick faces right now, in part after a controversial CBS interview he's clapping back against tonight. Do you know what happened? Have you not been on the internet for the last 3 days? Well, here's the deal. In this interview with CBS, Belichick, who, remember, now coaches at the University of North Carolina, had this question from the interviewer about his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. He did not answer because it sounds like she told him not to. Here it is.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on.
CBS referred to Hudson as kind of a constant presence in the interview, and now there's reporting from The Athletic that Belichick and Hudson nixed North Carolina's involvement in that popular HBO series Hard Knocks just days before it was supposed to be announced. Look at this. The Athletic even got a mock-up of what it would look like. I mean, sounds like they went pretty far down this Hard Knocks road with, as you see, Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels. We're out to HBO for comment on that. Let me bring in Aaron Gilchrist, who's tracking the story for us, because, Aaron, I understood we've just heard from CBS now on this story that has really kind of exploded beyond just viral fame and into this world of the business of sports, given the implications here for Belichick.
Yeah, you know, there's this back and forth all of a sudden about what should have been a fairly simple interview because Bill Belichick has a book coming out and he wanted to talk about his life and the things that are in that book, including his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. She's mentioned in this book as well. I want you to see the statement, some of the statement that Bill Belichick put out through the University of North Carolina earlier today, his position on this interview and how things went. You can see part of it here. I clearly communicated with my publicist at Simon & Schuster that any promotional interviews I participated in in, would agree to focus solely on the contents of the book. Unfortunately, that expectation was not honored during the interview. He went on to say, Jordan, with whom I share both a personal and professional relationship, stepped in to reiterate that point to help refocus the discussion. She was not deflecting any specific question or topic, but simply doing her job to ensure the interview stayed on track. Now, that's his perspective. You mentioned we got a statement from CBS. This coming into us just in the last hour or so here, Hallie, where CBS offers their perspective. When we agreed to speak with Mr. Belichick, it was for a wide-ranging interview. There were no preconditions or limitations on this conversation. This was confirmed repeatedly with his publisher before the interview took place and after it was completed. And Hallie, to sort of pull back the curtain for folks at home, what you just heard from CBS there is pretty journalism 101, standard stuff that most journalists don't agree to preconditions for an interview. They don't say, oh, no, we won't talk about these things. We say, we'll ask the question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but we still are going to ask the questions that come up. And what we saw in this interview, even though it wasn't, according to Belichick, supposed to be about anything that wasn't in the book, was the interviewer here asking about what he was hearing in the moment, in the room. Hallie.
So you've got the Hard Knocks reporting from The Athletic, this show that is like super popular, could have been a ton of exposure for this North Carolina program that Belichick is taking on. But we talked about the pressures now facing Belichick in part because of this really sort of public position and sort of public interfacing that he's doing now as he's out promoting this book, as, you know, Jordan Hudson is talking about him and you know, also talking about their relationship online, on social media, et cetera. You have like at least one former player who's saying, wait a second, maybe Bill Belichick should not be coaching college football right now. Other players say the opposite. It's become kind of a thing among the football community and the business community.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're talking about college football in particular now with Bill Belichick, and there's some who are saying that, well, since this is now a college coach who's shaping young men, football players, into the people that they're going to become, that this is not the sort of thing that perhaps you want these college players to be exposed to or to be sort of wrapped up in. I want you to hear some of the differing views that we've heard from former players of Bill Belichick's.
I'm worried that Bill Belichick just isn't fit to coach college kids, and UNC should consider cutting ties with Bill Belichick.
When you look at this situation and you say, oh, this is his girlfriend jumping in, I think that's unfair. I think she's actually working with Coach Belichick in the professional world, and she probably went and said, hey, no, we're not doing that.
And so UNC has not said, Hallie, that they are looking to make any changes to their football program at this point. The only thing we've heard from the university is that statement that they put out from Bill Belichick. And so we will wait to see if the other cleat drops on this story, Hallie.
So to speak, Aaron Gilchrist, thank you very much for that. I know you'll be watching. Coming up here on the show, we're taking you to Harvard, where there's fear on campus over a Trump administration deadline coming up just hours from now, midnight tonight. What the White House wants and what some students and faculty say that could mean for their futures. Tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight it's that escalating fight between Harvard and the White House. The university now facing a midnight deadline to turn over the names of international students who have been disciplined for participating in protests. And while the education secretary today says they're in negotiations, some faculty members are pledging to donate part of their salaries to help the school community. Some students at Harvard sharing now how they're living in fear about what's next. Our Rahima Ellis reports.
Tonight at America's oldest university, the clock is ticking after the Department of Homeland Security demanded Harvard hand over a list of some international students' names by midnight or risk losing its ability to host foreign students at all.
None of us wanted this fight. Thank you so much.
Now some international students are rallying for something they never imagined would be challenged in the United States.
We will not let Trump dictate our speech.
They fear their ability to voice disagreement is under attack by the president. 2 weeks ago, the Department of Homeland Security sent a letter accusing Harvard of creating what it calls a hostile learning environment for Jewish students, demanding the school turn over records of foreign students who have been disciplined for participating in protests.
Give us the names of some, and you can keep the rest. But we know that if we start giving in, he's going to demand even more.
Swedish senior Leo Jardian is one of the few international students willing to speak out publicly. NBC News spoke to more than half a dozen foreign Harvard students and faculty on the condition of anonymity out of fear their visas could be revoked. Already, more than 1,000 international students have lost visas across the country. We filmed students who agreed to speak on camera only in shadow and with their voices replaced. A European Jewish student believes Trump's actions are not about protecting people like her.
He's not fighting anti-Semitism. He's fighting people who have a different opinion from him. That's the problem.
She says she is going to follow Harvard's advice and stay in the United States this summer because she's scared if she goes home, she won't be allowed back into the country.
It's like a really panicking stage of finding a summer job, finding a summer internship, like trying to apply for different fundings because, you know, I need money like to actually live.
A student from Canada described the mounting anxiety.
Am I going to be able to be here in a few weeks? Am I going to have to go home? What transfer options are available for me? What is my future going to look like?
Have you been warned that if you continue to participate in protests, that could turn you into a target and subject to deportation?
Definitely, and I know that for every protest I speak at or op-ed I write, the risks are getting higher.
Another student speaking out, sophomore Abdullah Shahed Sihal, the undergraduate student body co-president, is from Pakistan.
I think dissent is something which this country was founded upon, and I think it should be accepted at the bare minimum.
This showdown is part of the larger battle between higher education and the government. Earlier this month, after Harvard refused to comply with a list of Trump administration demands, the government froze over $2 billion of their federal funding. Harvard fired back with a lawsuit arguing the demands and the freeze were, quote, unconstitutional. Remember last year when student-led pro-Palestinian protests swept college campuses across the country.
At every point, international students have been treated as poker chips.
This situation not just affecting current international students, but also future ones. The Harvard admissions office sending an unprecedented email telling students who have been admitted that they could also reserve a spot in a non-American university as a backup. Harvard did not respond to a request for comment. Previously, a spokesperson said the university is aware of DHS scrutiny of foreign student visas and will continue to comply with the law and expect the administration to do the same. We've asked the White House and the Department of Homeland Security for comment, but haven't heard back yet.
The reason I come to this place is because I want to make a difference for society sometime in the future.
But that future now very uncertain for the nearly 30% of foreign students who make up Harvard's student body and who find themselves in the middle of one of the most high-stakes showdowns between higher education and the government that we've ever seen. And Hallie, while we do know that there is a midnight deadline for Harvard to respond to the Trump administration demand to turn over information about students, we know that they are negotiating, but we don't know exactly how this is going to end. We also want to point out that in the story we talked about that there are some more than 1,000 foreign students who've had their visas revoked. 12 of them were at Harvard. They were international students as well as students who had graduated. We now know that those visas have been restored, but no one is saying exactly why. Hallie?
Rahema Ellis, much more to follow on that one, including into the wee hours of the morning. Appreciate you being on top of that. Thanks. Still to come here on the show, how a superstar tennis champ just barely beat a couple of teenagers on the court. We'll explain next. Okay, so here's a real thing that really happened today. Legendary tennis superstar, former world #1 ranked career Grand Slam winner Andre Agassi barely beat two teenagers on the court today. But which court? The pickleball court, folks. Look at that, a new sport for Agassi as he's now going pro in his big debut today, alongside literally the best pickleball player on the female side in the world right now. She's 18. Their opponents, 13 and 16, by the way. And here's the moment Agassi scored the match-winning point. That's some intense pickling right there. We've reported on the explosive growth of this game. It's kind of like, when you see it, it looks kind of like maybe tennis / big ping pong. It's become super popular over the past few years. Something like 20 million people did some kind of pickleballing over the last year. I want to bring in NBC's Jesse Kirsch for more on this. Noted pickleballer Jesse Kirsch, which we will discuss momentarily. Sided juggling on that one.
I don't know where you're getting your intel on that, Hallie.
Wait, so you're there. I mean, Andre Agassi crushing it on the court, but this is pickleball, and he, like, went 3, whatevers with these teenagers. Like, he just barely won along with the best pickleball player in the world. This is what's up with pro pickleball?
Yeah, so I want to give you a little context of where we are right now. So we are along the series of courts where they've still got matches going on. They have them going on throughout the day here. This is just the beginning, really, of a days-long tournament, the U.S. Open for pickleball. This was supposed to be the area where the second match that's starting in about 30 minutes for Andre Agassi was going to be played, along with Anna Leigh Waters. But they moved it to the main stadium where they played earlier today. There were people who were sitting out here hours ahead of time so they could be watching when Andre Agassi was playing this evening. That is how devoted some of his fans are, and just speaks to the energy he's bringing to this sport, which has already been growing, right, becoming wildly popular, but he's taking things up a notch. When we were seeing his game earlier, there were people who were literally climbing the fences from outside to watch because it was a sold-out event, and now they have decided to move his second match to that stadium, and people picked up from their perch here and have been racing over there. And our producer, Juliet, just saw a swarm of people trying to get a seat while they still could to watch his second match. We'll see if he can continue to advance in this mixed doubles tournament, Hallie.
It's a big deal because could this be the start? Like, first of all, it's a big deal because Andre Agassi's a big deal, and so is his partner here. And, like, this whole idea of, like, pro pickleball, the U.S. Open of pickleball is interesting. But also, is this the beginning of a pipeline for retired tennis pros to go into pickling?
Yeah, it sure seems like it's a possibility. There are already other notable names in tennis that have taken a similar pathway, not necessarily going pro quite yet, but Steffi Graf, who, by the way, is also Andre Agassi's wife and is herself a former world number one, a multi-time Grand Slam winner herself, a legend in her own right. She has gotten involved with pickleball. We saw her watching the match earlier today. John McEnroe, you cannot be serious, has played some pickleball himself as well. And I just want to go back to thank you. Yeah, I'm auditioning for the role of McEnroe. And just want to go back to what you said before. I have dabbled. I am by no means an avid pickleballer. I would say I've dabbled. I am not an avid pickler. What I would say is, for me, the number one pickle is still kosher dill, Hallie. Back to you.
Can't top that. Jesse Kirsch.
Here's the toss.
Get it on the promo. Woo! Thanks, Jess. Appreciate you. Have fun. We'll talk soon. That does it for this hour. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. More coverage picks up right now. Tonight, a shrinking economy and a lot of finger pointing. What it all means for recession talk, who President Trump is blaming now and preemptively blaming later, and what it could mean for the stuff you buy when we take you live to one of the country's busiest ports. Then, the Trump administration challenging America's judges to a fight over immigration. What's next in this executive judiciary showdown after a judge freed a Columbia student facing deportation for now? Plus, fireworks in a Massachusetts courtroom. Why the defense is hung up on one single word from a key witness in the Karen Reed trial. And 11 members of a high school lacrosse team in the last few hours turning themselves in to face charges for allegedly hazing their younger teammates. How a ride to one of the games apparently turned into an alleged armed kidnapping. And what can't those weight loss drugs do? The new research adding liver disease to the list of conditions meds like Ozempic can treat later on in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and we start tonight with the rhetoric versus the reality out of the White House on the economy. Because as President Trump looks ahead to his next 100 days in office, he's also looking back to finger point on who's to blame for how the economy's doing. Take a look at the markets, mixed to close after a big dip to start the day because of this number, you see it here, that set off all the alarm bells on the economy. The economy shrinking over the last 3 months. There it is, down 0.3% in the first quarter of 2025. You saw the expectations there. The expectation was growth. Instead, it's the first time we've seen a dip since the end of the pandemic. And if this happens again next quarter, we're talking maybe recession. Some of the president's closest advisors say those negative numbers you're seeing maybe aren't so bad.
This was the best negative print, as they say in the trade, for GDP I have ever seen in my life. It really should be very positive news for America.
But if you hear the president tell it in just the last hour, not only is this not his fault, what happens next won't be his fault either. Listen.
This is Biden's economy because we took over on January 20th. And I think you have to get us a little bit of time to get moving. But this is the Biden economy.
What is clear is this. The president is in charge now. So can he turn that big ship around, turn the economy around? Or might we be more seriously talking about a recession 3 months from now? And what about one of the real world impacts we're already seeing tonight? A slowdown at America's ports, meaning less stuff from Asia is headed our way. Our team's fanned out across the country. Steve Patterson at the country's busiest port. Kelly O'Donnell is outside the White House. But I want to start with our Brian Chung, who's breaking down the economic angle for us. What is feeding into these economic numbers that stand out to you like oh, yeah, that's definitely an alarm bell?
Yeah, but we've been throwing around this alphabet soup figure of GDP all day, but I just want to point out that it's just basically a fancy term for economic growth. How much did the U.S. economy grow? And that print that we got this morning said that at least in the first 3 months of this year, it didn't grow. It actually shrunk by a little bit. The contraction of 0.3%, again, for the first 3 quarters of this year on an annualized basis. That is the first time we have seen a negative figure on this report in 3 years. So, yes, that's getting a lot of concern here. But if we kind of unpack what we're talking about here in terms of how GDP is calculated, well, it's calculated as consumption, again, to how much regular people like you and me spend at the store, plus investment, businesses maybe building up a factory, plus government spending. And then this is the most important bit, plus net exports, exports minus imports. If you export more than you import, then that's positive for economic growth. If you import more than you export, then that's negative. So we saw government spending getting slashed, obviously with some of those DOGE initiatives, but it's really the net exports bit because so many companies were importing aggressively in the first 3 quarters of this month to try to get ahead of these tariffs, right? If you're a company and you sell toys later on this year, you're worried about, okay, I might not have anything on the shelf. Let me get everything ahead of these potential tariffs. That was the drag on GDP. And again, I'm amazed that I can even nerd out about this right now, but it's so relevant given the conversation. You heard Peter Navarro saying this is the best negative print they've ever seen. I think it's because they're looking at all the other components, excluding the net exports, which is a function largely of their tariffs, Hallie.
Brian, you can always nerd out with us. Our one viewer who will remain is going to love it with me and you here. But it's important stuff because as you talk about, the calculation matters when it comes to what President Trump is clearly thinking about here. And the other piece of this is what we referenced earlier. He's sort of preemptively blaming President Biden for the next quarter, as well as blaming him for this past quarter as well. He was asked about taking credit for the markets, too, something he distanced himself from the cabinet meeting as well earlier today. Let me play just a bit of that. Here it is.
Now, stock market's not doing so well, and you're saying that's the Biden stock market, yet you are the president. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I'm not taking credit or discredit for the stock market. I'm just saying that we inherited a mess.
So he says that, Brian, but as we frame it, right, rhetoric versus the reality. The reality is that President Trump has repeatedly taken credit for the stock market's strength, and he did even under former President Biden last January. This is the post that he put up on his Truth Social page. Is there a way to sort of very quantitatively lay out whose stock market this actually is here?
Well, I mean, if you were to draw a line beginning at his inauguration, well, then that stock market line does not look very good. I mean, year to date, the S&P 500 is down over 5%. Since inauguration, I believe it's down even more than that. So if you look at just that specific line, then, yeah, I mean, you could say that since inauguration, the stock market has not done very well by any standards. However, this is just part of the political tradition of administrations taking credit for other administrations' things on the things that they like and then trying to blame the prior administration on the things things that they don't like, which both Democrats and Republicans have been doing in the past. But again, when it comes to the GDP equating, it really is a function of the tariffs, which is all about this current administration's policies.
And by the way, some of those tariffs were actually in place during the first quarter, right?
That's right. The 10% on China was put into place in February, ratcheted up to 20%. That would have been covered in this data.
Brian Chung, thank you very much. You're staying busy these days. Thanks, pal. Kelly O'Donnell is as well. She is outside the White House for us tonight. And as we talk about this idea of sort of who is to blame for how this economy is, which matters potentially from a voter's perspective, one sort of piece of reaction in particular caught our team's eye from Dave Portnoy. He's the Barstool Sports head. We bring him up because he's very influential among Gen Z men, right, among this group that we know heavily backed President Trump during the campaign, who says, you know, this doesn't mean it won't get better and that we don't need to be patient, but this is his stock market, not former President Biden's, I should say. The question is, given that polls have already given President Trump not great marks on the economy, how much runway do Trump officials think the president has here to turn this around?
Well, to the degree that the president is sort of ignoring those sort of inputs, polling and some of the other things, gives you a sense that it's clearly on their minds. The fact that he's talking about the Biden economy today, when tomorrow is May 1st and he is back in office, is a sign. It is a big tell in understanding President Trump. He is trying to direct people's attention elsewhere. So to have a voice like Dave Portnoy, who has a lot of credibility with a big audience that is in many ways believed to be favorable to President Trump in terms of the voting of last November. That is important. Portnoy has been critical previously about the tariffs. If I remember correctly, that was another subject area where he is just telling you what he thinks. He's got his own sense and common sensibilities about this, and it may have an impact on his listeners and the community that follows him. So for this White House, they are very focused on data. So they're looking at all of the polling. They're looking at what the market is doing. And to a great degree, the president is trying to brand his way and to some degree bluster his way. And I mean that in the sense of how he likes to talk in a big, bold pattern to try to overcome that. And so by misdirecting or redirecting back to the Biden period, that might be one tool. Another is to talk about what is still to come, other deals that may come, as he likes to talk about. So this is very much on the president's watch now, one way or another. He may not want to acknowledge it, and he may ignore the ways that he used to give us metrics like looking to the stock market. That might be first-term Donald Trump, maybe not so much second-term Donald Trump.
Kelly, you make the accurate and factually correct point that tomorrow is May. But if it feels like we've time traveled back to October, right, back to the heat of the presidential campaign, here we are, right, with President Trump talking about the quote-unquote Biden economy. Here we are with former Vice President Kamala Harris set to come out tonight for what is going to be her first, I think, major public speech since losing the election here. Here we are where you have former Biden officials coming out and trying to take a dig at President Trump for what he said. There's a lot of, like, October vibes happening.
It's interesting you say that. Now, the official office of Joe Biden has not commented on that. So when presidents leave office, they have an official office that's funded by the taxpayers where they do their public events and they have staff that works for them and so forth. And I've been checking in with them very regularly, and they are not weighing in on the day-to-day. But some people who had worked for Joe Biden, who are in the space of kind of following their own path now, do talk a bit about this. And Andrew Bates was one of the sort of warriors for campaign time. And he talks about this. He says Donald Trump is the only president to have sent a strengthening economy into a nosedive in 100 days, and the only president to have bankrupted a casino. That gives you a bit of the taste there, using the Trump crime family. That's a spin on how they used to say the Biden crime family. So he's one of the sort of agitators in the political space on behalf of former President Biden, and certainly taking a shot at the current resident of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But the official Biden office is taking a pass on a lot of this.
Do we think Kamala Harris will take a pass later tonight when she speaks? Do we know?
I would imagine she's going to reflect the moment. And she has her own calculations to make. Will she run for governor of California? Will she seek the presidency again? Will she try to find a piece of the Democratic Party as it needs a leader at this point? Joe Biden's career in elective office is over. Will she be the one to step forward while many other governors and other prominent Democrats are trying to find who will be the voice?
Kelly O'Donnell live for us outside the White House. Kel, thank you very much. Let's go to L.A. now, where Steve Patterson is posted up right outside the port of Los Angeles, which is the nation's, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, the nation's busiest ports for stuff coming in from China, from the rest of Asia, et cetera, yeah?
Yep, absolutely. And when people are asking about this problem, one of the things I like to ask is how many things in your home, on your body, in your car, maybe even right now, say made in China. You know, so, I mean, when you're talking about 145%, a lot of these companies, if you're talking about small companies, all of a sudden, they literally can't afford to ship from China anymore. Medium-sized companies are deciding how much longer this can last. Larger companies have already pushed a lot of their goods through, so they're in a better spot, but it's still really rough. So, yes, 30% of the nation's exports, 40% of the imports, all come through these two ports here in Southern California. The majority of the weight, the volume, the cargo is from China, so that volume is simply being reduced. Look on screen. Compared to this week into next week, we're losing volume. You're going to lose volumes of ships coming to this port next month by about 25%. That means that the stuff that says made in China is going to stop going on store shelves, and eventually it's going to trickle down into those retailers who are having to decide, what do we do with our bottom line? Do we lay off people? Do we charge people more? Go ahead, Hallie.
No, you might be answering it, because it just makes me think, like, but what does that trickle down look like? In other words, is it a hard stop, Steve? I don't think so. Like in 6 weeks, all of a sudden nothing's on store shelves, or does it look a little bit different if you're looking for that pair of sneakers or that new iPhone or whatever?
Right. So a great question. And a lot of it is all relative, right? So if you're talking about retailers as far as like clothing, the latest fall fashion, you know, maybe in danger. Maybe if you wanted a blue in that dress, you're not going to be able to get that. So you have to go down to the next available color. Stuff like that, which is seems like it's minor, but that's a huge consumer base. And then eventually that's going to translate over into staples, stuff that was pushed forward, like the big consumer electronics, furniture, parts that are required to build homes. I mean, a lot of this stuff is really essential, and eventually it will hit that level as well. It just starts at a place in which these goods, you know, that smaller retailers can't afford to process anymore is going to affect folks. And it's going to hit in a big way, but not for maybe the next 4 to 5 weeks, and then maybe the next few months or so on into the late summer, early buying season into Christmas. Hallie?
And that's not even to mention, by the way, the millions of people who rely on the shipping industry to make a living. So not just dock workers, but truck drivers, et cetera. I mean, they're bracing for impact, too.
On down the line, the whole supply chain is affected, from folks that work right here at the docks, which is 15,000 longshoremen, to the truckers, the suppliers, the shippers, all those people, all of them affected. Not to mention the barbershops, the pizza shops, the coffee shops, all of those folks that I've spoken to here. All of them are impacted, too, because they have less customers literally right now coming into their shops, and they have to charge more for a cup of coffee. Hallie?
Steve Patterson live for us here at the Port of L.A. Steve, thank you for being there and bringing us the latest on that. Appreciate it. Also tonight, right now, you've got extreme weather battering folks in Oklahoma, where they are now evacuating people because of flash flooding concerns. Then look at this. There's a possible tornado touching down nearby in North Texas. Look at that wind, up to 100 miles an hour. And yeah, it flipped a truck, a semi, right on the highway. Some 300,000 people in Pennsylvania are in the dark. One power company says it could take up to a week to get the lights back on. Intense wind, heavy rain, turning deadly there when one man was electrocuted near a utility pole during the storm. Another man killed when a tree fell over. You're looking at some of the damage in that area. I want to bring in now Priscilla Thompson, who is joining us now live from Texas. Priscilla, tell us what you're seeing, because that seems to be the place that saw some of the worst of the storm damage.
Yeah, Hallie, cloudy skies are all that remains right now, but that was not the case just a short while ago when we were experiencing these torrential downpours throughout North Texas. There was flash flooding, some cars even washed off of roadways, pounding hail. This was the scene really across parts of North Texas earlier today and on into Oklahoma, where we have seen over the past 24 hours water rescues, people having to be saved from their homes as those floodwaters rushed in. We also saw a very dramatic dramatic scene where there was a strike of lightning that actually ignited an entire home. There was a massive blaze that first responders there had to respond to. And it's not just the South, but as you noted, also Pennsylvania, where sadly at least 4 people have died due to weather-related causes. You've got hundreds of thousands of people still without power there. And the South is not yet in the clear just yet, because even going into tonight, there is still the threat of possible tornadoes in parts of central and east Texas on into Louisiana and for almost all of Arkansas. Hallie?
Priscilla Thompson live for us there in Dallas. Thank you very much. The White House saying late today no judge will stop them from, in their words, restoring the rule of law on immigration. That's after a federal judge ruled a Columbia student at the center of a kind of lesser-known deportation fight can be free for now, in yet another battle between the White House and the courts. You see him there, the man holding up his hands, Moshe Madawi, now out of ICE detention on bail for the moment. And he's got a message for the White House.
And I am saying it clear and loud. Yes. To President Trump and his cabinet. Yes. I am not afraid of you.
Madawi was a key organizer of pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia. And the White House says that is why he should be deported, writing in court documents reviewed by NBC News that he admitted to being involved in anti-Semitic acts of violence. It is not just Madawi. Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil is in ICE custody right now. Foreign students at Cornell, Tufts, the University of Alabama have all been arrested too. Let's bring in Stephanie Gosk now, who's got more. You know, we talk about this sort of executive branch, judicial branch, head-to-head. You are seeing it in this case with the judge sort of being very clear with the Trump administration in their own message here.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. I mean, the judge in this case almost very clearly siding with Madawi and his legal team in this decision, although this is just a release on bail. The actual decision on whether he's been legally detained will happen further down the road. But the judge making clear that he has real First Amendment concerns, writing in his decision, our nation has seen times like this before. The wheel of history has come around again. But as before, these times of excess will pass. And that is why, because of that language, that is why I think you are getting such a strong statement from the administration saying that not this judge or any other judge is going to get in their way, Hallie.
So we talked about the administration, of course, pushing back, saying, hey, they're not going to let a judge stop them in this instance. We've heard that even just today from other members of the cabinet that, you know, they are going to exert some executive branch muscle against the judiciary. But what does that mean for the other students we talked about, not just from Columbia, but from other universities as well, who have been stopped, arrested, that are going through the legal process of their own?
Well, there's a really important distinction about this particular case here today, because this played out in Vermont. Madawi was actually never put on a plane and sent to Louisiana, where a number of these other students are being held. So the immigration portion is happening in Louisiana. Now, you had a federal court judge in Vermont order that Rumeza Ozturk, that's the graduate student from Tufts, that she be brought back to Vermont. And that process is working it out. The government is appealing that order, you know, whether or not she goes back to Vermont. So it really is this tug between these students and an issue of due process that's being fought out. They are all contesting their detention and challenging its legality, while at the same time, the government is pursuing deportation in a separate immigration proceeding, Hallie.
So when does this come to a head, Steph? Like, in other words, is there some big sort of court date that we're watching for? Is it going to happen by, like, what's the next thing we're circling on our calendar?
Well, there are different processes, but I would draw your attention to Rumeza Ozturk in particular. So a judge ordered her to be returned, actually tomorrow. A federal judge in Vermont ordered her returned tomorrow, but then it was appealed by the government, and there was a stay put in place until May 6th. And it remains to be seen what the appeals ruling will be, and then does it get kicked up to the Supreme Court, right? So a lot of these cases just keep moving up the courts, and so it would be something to watch if the federal government is ordered to bring her back to Vermont. Do they comply with that order? Does it go forward? But does it go all the way to the Supreme Court, right?
Well, that's the thing. As other cases, as other controversial moves that the Trump administration has made are working their way up as well. Stephanie Gosk, thank you. Appreciate you being on top of this one. Also tonight, the Massachusetts woman accused of killing her Boston police officer boyfriend, saying in just the last couple of hours that a key witness who testified in her trial today was effectively lying, was perjuring herself, she claims. Watch.
It's just more of the same. Inconsistencies. Every statement's different. Under oath, not under oath. The cops are all wrong. This is very similar to what we saw a year ago.
The witness testimony got heated today when Karen Reed's lawyer honed in on the exact wording of a critical question the defendant asked. Karen Reed, the morning that she realized her boyfriend hadn't come home. Remember, Reed, who you see here in court earlier, says she's being framed for the death of her boyfriend, Officer John O'Keefe, back in January of 2022. But prosecutors say Reed killed him, that she drunkenly backed into O'Keefe with her SUV and then left him to die in what was basically a blizzard. Danny Savalos is joining us now. Okay, so there's a couple of things to this here, because today at issue was really a single word, which was, did I hit him versus I hit him, right? I mean, that's what so much of the discussion came around to. And here's that exchange between the witness and Reed's lawyer where this was sort of hammered. Watch.
You were there. They're your words. I'm not asking you to rehearse something. You were there. Did you tell the grand jurors that my client said I hit him?
I have testified a number of times, but I was there the morning of January 29th when your client said I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Did you tell that to the grand jurors?
I'm not sure.
Explain why this is so important, that single word, whether it's I hit him or did I hit him?
Well, because one version sounds like an admission. I hit him. That would be an admission, and it would be an exception to hearsay. It comes right in against the defendant. On the other hand, if she's asking a rhetorical question or just asking the question to herself, did I hit him, as if to say I don't remember one way or another, it's not exactly exonerating, but it's a lot better than admitting I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And what we're seeing here is what most defense lawyers and prosecutors know, is that human memory is pretty fallible. And after a couple of years, you might misremember something and really believe that you heard it one way when you maybe thought you heard it another way a year before.
There's also something else that came into focus was this question of a Google search that was conducted where there's a typo in it, but apparently like how long to die in the cold. Basically a question about hypothermia here, which is also super critical for both sides, right?
Here's how huge this is. It's probably one of the biggest pieces of the defense's defense is that if McCabe was searching for how long to die in the cold at 2 a.m. before anyone sounded the alarm that John was missing, the defense's theory is that she was part of the cover-up because she only texted later at 6 a.m. when they were wondering whether or not John could survive being out in the cold. The problem is the prosecution called an expert who testified, and I thought credibly, that when you open up a browser in your phone and you leave the tab open and you search using that same tab hours later, it will show when you open the tab, not necessarily the moment you entered the search. And McCabe testified that when she got home, she lay in bed, she looked up soccer information for her kids. And then, by the way, that also raises a really bizarre thing for the defense, which is even if she was searching at 2 a.m., how long to die in the cold, she immediately after searched things about her kid's soccer game. That would be bananas if somebody was conspiring to hide a body and then thought, oh, let me look up what's going on with my daughter's soccer team. Either way, the use of this expert, by the way, the defense has their own expert, and maybe that expert will be more convincing. But this expert may have, at least in some jurors' minds, destroyed the whole 2 a.m. search theory.
You're talking about what's happening in the court. There is also the court of public opinion, and that seems to be what Karen Reed is looking to deliver her message to as well, because she's been coming out, I think, almost every day after court. We played a little bit of it there in the introduction. I think we can show some of the video addressing what is like a total scene. You know, tons of people that have gathered now outside the courthouse as this is such a hugely sort of high-profile, closely watched trial, Danny. Is that... It feels unusual that the defendant would be coming out talking to the gaggle of media. Like, what's been your experience with something like that?
Yeah, in general, it's not a good idea for your client to talk to the media. It's one thing for lawyers to do it because that can't be used as evidence. You need look no further than the fact that the prosecution is using her statements in court against her. And if they're using them, the prosecution thinks that they're helpful to the prosecution. Karen Reed may have thought she acquitted herself well in these documentaries, but the prosecution thinks otherwise.
Danny Savalos, I know you'll be watching. Thank you very much for that breakdown tonight. Coming up, how much a prank call is now costing the Atlanta Falcons. Plus, Katy Perry opening up about some of the criticism she's gotten since that recent trip to space, where she says people are trying to make her, in her words, a human piñata. In just the last couple of hours, prosecutors in upstate New York have announced 11 high schoolers have now turned themselves in over their alleged involvement in what prosecutors call hazing on steroids. Officials say last Thursday, those students essentially staged a kidnapping of at least 5 younger lacrosse team members that involved driving one student into the woods with a pillowcase over his head, tied up in the trunk of a car. A gun apparently was involved. This was the first time we've heard details publicly about this whole thing, with officials only addressing it because of so many rumors about what happened, they say. And here's the thing. When you think about hazing, you may think about it like at the college level. Nearly 1,000 incidents of hazing reported on college campuses in the last 7 years. But researchers say this is also a big problem in both high school and in middle school. Up to 17% of middle school athletes reporting getting hazed, up to 48% when it comes to high schoolers. Morgan Chesky is joining us now. And Morgan, there had been kind of an ultimatum for these students. Either turn yourselves in or face charges as an adult. We now know in just the last couple of hours that all 11 have turned themselves in. And the details here are pretty startling for this, for anybody, including this age group.
Yeah, Hallie, you're absolutely right. And it's interesting to see just how quickly these teens responded to that incredibly firm ultimatum issued by the district attorney yesterday, saying you have 48 hours, get an attorney, turn yourself in, or this misdemeanor charge will become that of a felony. As it stands right now, the DA's office did confirm to NBC News that because all of these teens did turn themselves into authorities today, they were issued tickets for misdemeanor unlawful imprisonment and promised to appear before the court at some point over the next few weeks or so. That, of course, radically different than the felony charges that they could have faced, particularly for those 18 or older, had they not turned themselves in. We have yet to hear from any of the suspects involved or their parents or legal representation. But it appears as of right now that things are going according to that ultimatum issued. As for anyone else, as for whether or not anyone else is involved, it doesn't appear so at this time. I should note that the DA has pointed out that the coach did not know that this activity was taking place. But I want you to hear from some of the DA more in his own words just about his thoughts on this entire ordeal. Take a listen.
I cannot really adequately express to this community the level of stupidity and lack of judgment involved in this case. This goes way, way beyond, hazing.
Yeah, and the DA also said that should a sheriff's deputy had passed by this incident as it was happening, Hallie, particularly with one of those students having a handgun, he believes this could have ended far differently and in a much more tragic manner here. Hallie?
And explain that, Morgan, because I guess some of these, it was, I think it was like 9th and 10th graders, and at least one of them was taken, basically thought they were going to like practice and a dinner. That is not at all the case.
Right. The investigation shows that, I guess, older members of the team had promised to take everyone out to dinner. And I guess following a trip to McDonald's, they then offered to give one of the students a ride home. And the driver claimed that he was getting lost. That, of course, was a ruse to drive them farther out into this remote wooded area where court records show that other team members dressed in black emerged, one of them allegedly clutching a knife, another a handgun. I should follow that by saying that none of these teens that were taken into the wooded area were physically harmed, but the DA did make it clear that this definitely left an impact here. Hallie?
And no more varsity lacrosse for the rest of the season, right?
Correct. Season has been canceled.
Yeah. Morgan Chesky, thanks for the details on that one and where that one goes next. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the Treasury Department in just the last half hour confirming the U.S. and Ukraine have signed a rare minerals deal. It'll give the U.S. access to those valuable minerals inside Ukraine that help make things like aircraft wings, batteries. Ukraine sees the deal as key to future U.S. military help. Number 2, federal prosecutors denying claims they eavesdropped on jailhouse phone calls between the man accused of killing the United Healthcare CEO and his lawyer. Prosecutors say the jail where this man, Luigi Mangione, is being held regularly records and monitors lines. Remember, Mangione has pleaded not guilty to charges in connection with Brian Thompson's death. His trial is expected to start next year. Number 3, Pakistan says it has credible intelligence that India is planning to launch military strikes sometime the next couple of days. Remember, India points the finger at Pakistan for that deadly shooting last week in the Kashmir region. 26 people died. Pakistan denies the allegations and says any military moves by India will be responded to. Number 4, the NFL is fining the Atlanta Falcons and their defensive coordinator hundreds of thousands of dollars after that now viral prank call the team says the coach's son is responsible for. It went to Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback who had that dramatic fall from the first round, slid all the way down, I think it was to the 5th round. This son and his friends called Sanders, claiming to be the GM of the New Orleans Saints, and said Sanders would be drafted, then obviously said it was a joke. Sanders ended up picked by the Cleveland Browns. Number 5, Katy Perry responding to a fan video about her tour saying, "Please know I am okay." She said the online world is trying to make her what she describes as a human piñata, but that she's taken it with grace. Perry's been facing a lot of criticism after that trip to space, or to the edge of space, as well as criticism of her tour's choreography, et cetera, as well. Perry says the internet, in her words, is very much a dumping ground for the unhinged and unhealed. Coming up, some new comments tonight from King Charles, what he's now sharing about his cancer diagnosis. Plus, could Bill Belichick's college football career be derailed before it even begins? NBC covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Spain, at least 3 people have died, according to local media, after that power outage we've told you about. Police are looking at whether it was from possible carbon monoxide inhalation from a faulty generator. Their bodies were apparently found in their beds. Officials are still investigating 2 other deaths as well. Out of Peru, 2 children have been killed after a glacial lagoon overflow caused a huge landslide. Hundreds of people had to leave. I mean, you're looking at some of that there, and then here's the aftermath here, the damage left behind. Officials say this has been an ongoing concern in the region because hot temperatures cause the glaciers to melt faster than usual. And out of the UK, King Charles is opening up about his cancer diagnosis now, saying this experience showed him what he called the very best of humanity in a celebration for cancer support groups at Buckingham Palace. He added it can be a very frightening experience for people and their loved ones. The king was diagnosed last February with an unspecified form of cancer. He's been receiving treatment since. He also thanked the charities for their work, and he thanked the healthcare professionals who have been treating him. Also tonight, a new study out just this past hour or so shows that semaglutide drugs can actually help fight liver disease. You've heard a lot about these drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy. You might know somebody who's on them. They're big for weight loss, right? They're big for helping people manage their diabetes, for example. But now, scientists in the New England Journal of Medicine say 63% of patients who were taking the drug in this study saw their liver issues either reversed altogether or reduced. And that could be a really big deal for the 4.5 million Americans living with liver disease right now. Berkeley Loveless is joining us now. Again, there's a lot that these drugs can do, and apparently helping to fight against liver disease is one of them.
Yeah, so they're really moving beyond weight loss and diabetes. So this study in particular was really interesting. It looked at fatty liver disease, a serious form called MASH. And so basically people who got Wegovy or semaglutide, about 1/3 or 2/3 of them saw a reduction in MASH, and then they also saw a reduction in scarring that's also known for this disease. And so it's a really big deal because if left untreated, this disease can cause liver cancer. It could also require a liver transplant as well. The only effective treatment option right now is surgery. There is one other drug, but it's not as effective as the trial results for this showed. So this is a pretty big deal. And like right now we're seeing a lot of promise for these drugs. There's a lot of hope. For example, it's being looked at for alcohol addiction, for heart disease risk, for Alzheimer's. And so the thought right now is that these drugs help with your overall health. And so, of course, they're going to translate to these other diseases as well.
The alcohol addiction one is interesting, too, because obviously that could intersect with the liver stuff, too, right?
Yeah, and so they haven't looked at that yet. This is a separate form. There's another type of liver disease that has to do, it's caused by drinking. And so this looked at the non-alcoholic version of that as well. But but they're also, I believe, looking at the alcohol version as well.
People might hear this and go, oh my gosh, okay, great. Like, maybe I'll try this drug if my doctor recommends it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It is still incredibly expensive, right? And there's these questions about these issues of access, especially with the FDA basically ending the sort of compounding or sort of creating pharmacists creating their own version of these drugs.
Yeah, and so studies like this actually help. And so when we see studies like this, insurance companies are more likely to cover it. So they're not likely to cover the drugs when they're for weight loss alone. But we've seen when they get approved for heart disease risk or sleep apnea, insurance companies are more willing to cover it. And so Novo Nordisk said that they plan to file for approval. I believe they've already have, actually, and that we could hear by the end of the year. And so if they get approved, then insurance companies could then move. And a lot of people with obesity have this liver disease, so it could be helpful.
It's super interesting. Berkeley Loveless, I know that's hot off the presses, so thank you for getting here and bringing that to us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Also tonight, could the college coaching career of one of the most famous NFL football coaches in history get derailed before it even begins? That is the kind of pressure that 8-time Super Bowl winner Bill Belichick faces right now, in part after a controversial CBS interview he's clapping back against tonight. Do you know what happened? Have you not been on the internet for the last 3 days? Well, here's the deal. In this interview with CBS, Belichick, who, remember, now coaches at the University of North Carolina, had this question from the interviewer about his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. He did not answer because it sounds like she told him not to. Here it is.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on.
CBS referred to Hudson as kind of a constant presence in the interview, and now there's reporting from The Athletic that Belichick and Hudson nixed North Carolina's involvement in that popular HBO series Hard Knocks just days before it was supposed to be announced. Look at this. The Athletic even got a mock-up of what it would look like. I mean, sounds like they went pretty far down this Hard Knocks road with, as you see, Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels. We're out to HBO for comment on that. Let me bring in Aaron Gilchrist, who's tracking the story for us, because, Aaron, I understood we've just heard from CBS now on this story that has really kind of exploded beyond just viral fame and into this world of the business of sports, given the implications here for Belichick.
Yeah, you know, there's this back and forth all of a sudden about what should have been a fairly simple interview because Bill Belichick has a book coming out and he wanted to talk about his life and the things that are in that book, including his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. She's mentioned in this book as well. I want you to see the statement, some of the statement that Bill Belichick put out through the University of North Carolina earlier today, his position on this interview and how things went. You can see part of it here. I clearly communicated with my publicist at Simon & Schuster that any promotional interviews I participated in would agree to focus solely on the contents of the book. Unfortunately, that expectation was not honored during the interview. He went on to say, Jordan, with whom I share both a personal and professional relationship, stepped in to reiterate that point to help refocus the discussion. She was not deflecting any specific question or topic, but simply doing her job to ensure the interview stayed on track. Now, that's his perspective. You mentioned we got a statement from CBS. This coming into us just in the last hour or so here, Hallie, where CBS offers their perspective. When we agreed to speak with Mr. Belichick, it was for a wide-ranging interview. There were no preconditions or limitations on this conversation. This was confirmed repeatedly with his publisher before the interview took place and after it was completed. And Hallie, to sort of pull back the curtain for folks at home, what you just heard from CBS there is pretty journalism 101, standard stuff that most journalists don't agree to preconditions for an interview. They don't say, oh, no, we won't talk about these things. We say, we'll ask the question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but we still are going to ask the questions that come up. And what we saw in this interview, even though it wasn't, according to Belichick, supposed to be about anything that wasn't in the book, was the interviewer here asking about what he was hearing in the moment, in the room. Hallie.
So you've got the Hard Knocks reporting from The Athletic, this show that is like super popular, could have been a ton of exposure for this North Carolina program that Belichick is taking on. But we talked about the pressures now facing Belichick in part because of this really sort of public position and sort of public interfacing that he's doing now as he's out promoting this book, as, you know, Jordan Hudson is talking about him and you know, also talking about their relationship online, on social media, et cetera. You have like at least one former player who's saying, wait a second, maybe Bill Belichick should not be coaching college football right now. Other players say the opposite. It's become kind of a thing among the football community and the business community.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're talking about college football in particular now with Bill Belichick, and there's some who are saying that, well, since this is now a college coach who's shaping young men, football players, into the people that they're going to become, that this is not the sort of thing that perhaps you want these college players to be exposed to or to be sort of wrapped up in. I want you to hear some of the differing views that we've heard from former players of Bill Belichick's.
I'm worried that Bill Belichick just isn't fit to coach college kids, and UNC should consider cutting ties with Bill Belichick.
When you look at this situation and you say, oh, this is his girlfriend jumping in, I think that's unfair. I think she's actually working with Coach Belichick in the professional world, and she probably went and said, hey, no, we're not doing that.
And so UNC has not said, Hallie, that they are looking to make any changes to their football program at this point. The only thing we've heard from the university is that statement that they put out from Bill Belichick. And so we will wait to see if the other cleat drops on this story, Hallie.
So to speak, Aaron Gilchrist, thank you very much for that. I know you'll be watching. Coming up here on the show, we're taking you to Harvard, where there's fear on campus over a Trump administration deadline coming up just hours from now, midnight tonight. What the White House wants and what some students and faculty say that could mean for their futures. Tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight it's that escalating fight between Harvard and the White House. The university now facing a midnight deadline to turn over the names of international students who have been disciplined for participating in protests. And while the education secretary today says they're in negotiations, some faculty members are pledging to donate part of their salaries to help the school community. Some students at Harvard sharing now how they're living in fear about what's next. Our Rahima Ellis reports.
Tonight at America's oldest university, the clock is ticking after the Department of Homeland Security demanded Harvard hand over a list of some international students' names by midnight or risk losing its ability to host foreign students at all.
None of us wanted this fight.
Now some international students are rallying for something they never imagined would be challenged in the United States.
We will not let Trump dictate our speech.
They fear their ability to voice disagreement is under attack by the president. 2 weeks ago, the Department of Homeland Security sent a letter accusing Harvard of creating what it calls a hostile learning environment for Jewish students, demanding the school turn over records of foreign students who have been disciplined for participating in protests.
Give us the names of some, and you can keep the rest. But we know that if we start giving in, he's going to demand even more.
Swedish senior Leo Jardian is one of the few international students willing to speak out publicly. NBC News spoke to more than half a dozen foreign Harvard students and faculty on the condition of anonymity, out of fear their visas could be revoked. Already, more than 1,000 international students have lost visas across the country. We filmed students who agreed to speak on camera only in shadow and with their voices replaced. A European Jewish student believes Trump's actions are not about protecting people like her.
He's not fighting anti-Semitism. He's fighting people who have a different opinion from him. That's the problem.
She says she is going to follow Harvard's advice and stay in the United States this summer because she's scared if she goes home, she won't be allowed back into the country.
It's like a really panicking stage of finding a summer job, finding a summer internship, like trying to apply for different fundings because, you know, I need money like to actually live.
A student from Canada described the mounting anxiety.
Am I going to be able to be here in a few weeks? Am I going to have to go home? What transfer options are available for me? What is my future going to look like?
Have you been warned that if you continue to participate in protests, that could turn you into a target and subject to deportation?
Definitely, and I know that for every protest I speak at or op-ed I write, the risks are getting higher.
Another student speaking out, sophomore Abdullah Shahed Sial, the undergraduate student body co-president, is from Pakistan.
I think dissent is something which this country was founded upon, and I think it should be accepted at the bare minimum.
This showdown is part of the larger battle between higher education and the government. Earlier this month, after Harvard refused to comply with a list of Trump administration demands, the government froze over $2 billion of their federal funding. Harvard fired back with a lawsuit arguing the demands and the freeze were, quote, unconstitutional. Remember last year when student-led pro-Palestinian protests swept college campuses across the country.
At every point, international students have been treated as poker chips.
This situation not just affecting current international students, but also future ones. The Harvard admissions office sending an unprecedented email telling students who have been admitted that they could also reserve a spot in a non-American university as a backup. Harvard did not respond to a request for comment. Previously, a spokesperson said the university is aware of DHS scrutiny of foreign student visas and will continue to comply with the law and expect the administration to do the same. We've asked the White House and the Department of Homeland Security for comment, but haven't heard back yet.
The reason I come to this place is because I want to make a difference for society sometime in the future.
But that future now very uncertain for the nearly 30% of foreign students who make up Harvard's student body and who find themselves in the middle of one of the most high-stakes showdowns between higher education and the government that we've ever seen. And Hallie, while we do know that there is a midnight deadline for Harvard to respond to the Trump administration demand to turn over information about students, we know that they are negotiating, but we don't know exactly how this is going to end. We also want to point out that in the story we talked about that there are some more than 1,000 foreign students who've had their visas revoked. 12 of them were at Harvard. They were international students as well as students who had graduated. We now know that those visas have been restored, but no one is saying exactly why. Hallie?
Rahema Ellis, much more to follow on that one, including into the wee hours of the morning. Appreciate you being on top of that. Thanks. Still to come here on the show, how a superstar tennis champ just barely beat a couple of teenagers on the court. We'll explain next. Okay, so here's a real thing that really happened today. Legendary tennis superstar, former world #1 ranked career Grand Slam winner Andre Agassi barely beat two teenagers on the court today. But which court? The pickleball court, folks. Look at that, a new sport for Agassi as he's now going pro in his big debut today, alongside literally the best pickleball player on the female side in the world right now. She's 18. Their opponents, 13 and 16, by the way. And here's the moment Agassi scored the match-winning point. That's some intense pickling right there. We've reported on the explosive growth of this game. It's kind of like, when you see it, it looks kind of like maybe tennis/big ping pong. It's become super popular over the past few years. Something like 20 million people did some kind of pickleballing over the last year. I want to bring in NBC's Jesse Kirsch for more on this. Noted pickleballer Jesse Kirsch, which we will discuss momentarily. Sided juggling on that one.
I don't know where you're getting your intel on that, Hallie.
Wait, so you're there. I mean, Andre Agassi crushing it on the court, but this is pickleball, and he, went 3, whatevers with these teenagers. He just barely won along with the best pickleball player in the world. What's up with pro pickleball?
Yeah, so I want to give you a little context of where we are right now. So we are along the series of courts where they've still got matches going on. They have them going on throughout the day here. This is just the beginning, really, of a days-long tournament, the U.S. Open for pickleball. This was supposed to be the area where the second match that's starting in about 30 minutes for Andre Agassi was going to be played, along with Anna Leigh Waters. But they moved it to the main stadium where they played earlier today. There were people who were sitting out here hours ahead of time so they could be watching when Andre Agassi was playing this evening. That is how devoted some of his fans are, and just speaks to the energy he's bringing to this sport, which has already been growing, right, becoming wildly popular, but he's taking things up a notch. When we were seeing his game earlier, there were people who were literally climbing the fences from outside to watch because it was a sold-out event, and now they have decided to move his second match to that stadium, and people picked up from their perch here and have been racing over there. And and our producer, Juliet, just saw a swarm of people trying to get a seat while they still could to watch his second match. We'll see if he can continue to advance in this mixed doubles tournament, Hallie.
It's a big deal because could this be the start? Like, first of all, it's a big deal because Andre Agassi is a big deal, and so is his partner here. And, like, this whole idea of, like, pro pickleball, the U.S. Open of pickleball is interesting. But also, is this the beginning of a pipeline for retired tennis pros to go into pickling?
Yeah, it sure seems like it's a possibility. There are already other notable names in tennis that have taken a similar pathway, not necessarily going pro quite yet, but Steffi Graf, who, by the way, is also Andre Agassi's wife and is herself a former world #1, a multi-time Grand Slam winner herself, a legend in her own right. She has gotten involved with pickleball. We saw her watching the match earlier today. John McEnroe, you cannot be serious, has played some pickleball himself as well. And I just want to go back to what you thank you. Yeah, I'm auditioning for the role of McEnroe. And just want to go back to what you said before. I have dabbled. I am by no means an avid pickleballer. I would say I've dabbled. I am not an avid pickler. What I would say is, for me, the #1 pickle is still kosher dill, Hallie. Back to you.
Can't top that. Jesse Kirsch.
Here's the toss.
Get it on the promo. Woo! Thanks, Jess. Appreciate you. Have fun. We'll talk soon. That does it for this hour. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. More coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.